guys, good morning. Travis with Everglades. You asked, we delivered. Here we go. So we got the brand new Kubota 75-3. This thing just came out and we were able to get our hands on one. So here we go. If you go to your local Kubota dealer and you want to get a price on this Kubota 75 and you mention to them, hey man, I might be checking out John Deere, man. I want to see what John Deere's got going on. You know, I want to get a price from them. I at least want to see where they're at. The Kubota guy's going to tell you, hey, make sure you get a price on that John Deere 325. Because if you look at them on paper, the 325 is real close to the Kubota 75 on paper. But let's run through these specs real quick and you be the judge. So check it out. So starting over here, we got the John Deere 317g. 317's got 65 horsepower, weighs about 8,400 pounds, all right? Then we're going to this Kubota 75. This thing has 75 engine horsepower and it weighs about 9,300 pounds. Now let's look at this John Deere 325. It's got 75 engine horsepower and it weighs about 9,500 pounds. So looking at the weight and the horsepower, you would think this 325 matches up to this Kubota. What we're gonna do is we've got the same set of skid steer pallet forks, and fans of the channel will recognize this concrete block. Now, let's go ahead and get into the lifting demo and let's get this 325 out of the way. So let's go ahead and wind this thing up. We're going to tilt back and we're going to pick up this concrete block right here. Well, maybe we won't pick this concrete block up. So if you hear that sound, that's the sound of the hydraulic system winding and going into relief. In other words, the hydraulic system is giving up and you're done. Alright, so let's take a look at it from inside the cab. So let's give it a little bit of throttle. We don't even have to be all the way up. And let's tilt back. And let's pick this concrete block up. Matter of fact, I can pick this thing up. And if I got to move this thing around, I can do that. See, I can turn with it. I can do whatever I got to do to get this block where it needs to go. And let's go ahead and set her down. All right, so for those of you at the house right now that are wondering, well, the John Deere is 10 horsepower less, it weighs 1,000 pounds less, and it still lifts a heck of a lot more than this Kubota does. And right now you're probably pounding your fist on the coffee table and you're saying, well, why? Why, Travis? Why is this? Why? And I'll tell you, it's because the Kubota 75 was engineered using the metric system. That's why. All right, so now let's talk about this block. So if you remember from the last Kubota 75 video, just for full transparency, this is how I did it. So the Kubota 75-2 would sort of pick up this block. It would barely do it, but I said, you know what, let me look around here and let me find something that's just a little bit heavier. So what I found is, if you watch that old video, we had a little crate, and inside the crate was some tractor counterweight. That was a few hundred pounds more. It was just enough to make that Kubota go into relief. So what I'm trying to tell you is, this Kubota is weaker than the old one. That's right. The 75-3 will not pick up as much weight as the 75-2, even though Kubota says on paper it should be able to, but it won't. When we were testing this, as you can see, I didn't have the crate of tractor weights on here. All I needed was the concrete block, and that was enough to make the Kubota go into relief. Landscape guys, whenever you're picking up a pallet of sod, that means you're gonna have to, by hand, take pieces of sod and throw them off the pallet so this Kubota will be able to pick it up. Concrete, guys, what does that mean? That means you're gonna have to do more work by hand and break up the concrete slab into smaller bite-sized pieces, smaller Kubota-sized pieces for the Kubota to be able to pick it up. The John Deere has the hydraulic muscle and the stability to be able to pick it up without doing more work by hand. All right, so let's talk about counterweights. Now, one of the big selling features on the Kubota 75.3 is now available with counterweights. So, as you can see, you have these holes right here where you can bolt counterweights to. Now, what's the point of counterweights on a Kubota 75.3? Honestly don't know. Because let's talk about what happens when you lift with a skid steer. One of three things is going to happen. Number one, you're going to be able to lift whatever you're trying to lift. Number two, you will be able to pick the thing up, but the back end will tip because of a lack of stability, because you don't have the counterweight in the rear, which is why you would bolt counterweights to the rear of a machine to stabilize it. Counterweights will not make the hydraulics magically stronger. They will stabilize the back of the machine. Now, the third thing that will happen is the hydraulics are too weak and they go into relief. That's what happens on this machine. Now, to clarify, what I'm trying to tell you is it doesn't matter how much counterweight I have on the back of this machine. I could get another one of those concrete blocks and tie it to the back of the machine. It will still not pick up that amount of weight. The reason why is the hydraulic system is too weak to handle that amount of weight. So Kubota did redesign the back end of this machine, so let's talk about it. So, they put the fuel tank on the back door. Now, actual Kubota selling point. If the fuel tank is full, you have more counterweight and can lift more. Actual Kubota selling point. Now, although it doesn't help at all with lifting, as we've seen, because it doesn't matter how much counterweight we have on this machine, it's too weak to pick anything up. Now, by putting the door back here, the fuel tank back here, you do clean up the engine compartment quite a bit, which, as you can see, compared to the Dash 2, you can access stuff a lot easier, right? Your battery's now easier to get to, your fuel filter's easier to get to, air filter's really easy to get to. So that's great. Now, how did they achieve this extra space? I'll tell you. They moved the fan. So the fan is now on top of the engine. Now, when you do that, that's a trade-off. You get more room in the engine compartment, but you can't see out of the back of the machine as well. So as you can see, by this extra height back here, you can't see out of the back of the machine as well. So you're sacrificing rear visibility. Now, they did give you a nice camera back here, but you still cannot see as well behind you. Now, here's another thing. The Japanese engineers, when they designed this Kubota, they thought out these rear lights about as well as they did Pearl Harbor. Now, let me show you why. Because at night, when you cut these on, Tony, can you even see those lights? No. So, at night, when you cut these lights on, all you see is an orange glare on the cross tube. You can see a little bit of ambient light around it, but most of what you get is that bright orange glare off your cross tube. One of the big selling features on the Kubota 75.3 is now you can adjust the track response. That's right. You can hit a button inside the cab and adjust how quickly the tracks respond to you when you move the joystick. Well, guess what? You can do that on the John Deere, and I'll tell you what, on the John Deere, you can adjust the boom sensitivity. That's right, you can adjust the sensitivity of the loader boom and the bucket. You still can't get that on the Kubota. So most of y'all back home are familiar with this device. This is a 3/8 hook, which most of you will use to chain this machine down to your trailer. Now, one of the most infuriating things Kubota did when they designed this machine is they still did not fix this front tie-down point. Now, what do I mean? You gotta take your hook and you gotta feed it through, and take your other finger and you gotta fish it out. And if you have big fingers, it's even worse. All right, and then you hook the chain to itself, which at that point, you can chain it down to your trailer. Now, by the way, you get to do that every single time you move the machine. Now, let's check it out on the John Deere. I'm gonna take my hook, and I'm gonna go right into this pocket in the boom. Boom. Do that one more time. Right there, and we're good to go. So if I was going to epitomize the Kubota 75.3 in one feature, it would be this plate. Because what they did is they knew that this manifold here for your auxiliaries, guys often knock these things off when they're in the woods because a branch or something can hit them and it will knock this off the boom and it'll look something like this. Now, what Kubota did is they're faced with a choice. They said, you know what? We can redesign the boom and we can put them inside the boom like everyone else does. And they said, nah, costs too much money. What's cheaper? Let's take a plate and stick it over the top of it. Does it cover the whole manifold? Of course not. We'll just stick this plate on here and kind of cover it up. And then we'll talk about it. Perfect. So that's what they went with. Now, on the John Deere, as you can see, your auxiliary manifold is inside the boom. So it's well protected, right? You're inside the boom, protected. Now another design staple on the Kubota that they did not fix is what I call the trough. What's the trough? Well, it's this trough right here, which does nothing but collect dirt, debris, sticks, leaves, whatever you can find out there, this will collect it. And as you can see, it's got plenty of sticks, debris in here, and also this trough can fill up with sticks and debris, and it's very difficult to clean out. So the 317 hasn't changed much since about a year ago when we made our last video. It's still a strong, simple, fast, reliable machine. So one thing you'll notice is it's pretty dark in this cab, even in the daylight. The camera's kind of picking it up a little bit, but at night, you are really in the jaws of darkness in this machine. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there is no interior dome light. So when you sit in this seat, no light. You're pretty much stuck with your cell phone light looking around here, and you better hope there's not a snake or a lizard or a spider or something else in here. Now the John Deere, when you sit in that thing, as soon as you sit in the seat, boom, interior lights come on, and you can look around you, you can find something you're looking for, put your phone up, start the machine up, and get to work. Now here's another thing. The touchscreen on the Kubota 75.3. Now that's one of the new and exciting features Kubota was talking about, but one thing I noticed about this machine just from playing with it is you cannot interact with the machine unless the hydraulics are locked. Let me say that one more time. You cannot interact with the touchscreen unless the hydraulics are locked. So what does that mean? Well, that means if you want to change the song, you want to turn the radio down, you want to do anything else, you have to stop what you're doing, lock the hydraulics, and at that point, you can interact with the touchscreen. That's like the equivalent of you can't turn down your radio or change your radio station in your truck unless your truck is in park and you're pulled over. So that's a lot of fun. One of the big selling points about the Kubota 75.3 is the new and exciting touchscreen. Now that touchscreen is very fragile and very complicated. Now don't take my word for it. We have this, which was printed in Japan, by the way. Now, check it out. I'm not just saying it's fragile and complicated. Kubota is saying it's fragile and complicated. The Kubota can become unserviceable if the touchscreen is damaged. Now, what will damage the touchscreen? Let's find out. So if you look at here, it's saying in the book, do not press hard with your fingers or touch the screen with pointed objects. Don't clean it with alkaline, acidic, or organic solvents such as alcohol or benzene. Don't use a coarse cloth when you're cleaning it. It's saying it's designed to be operated with some gloves, but it probably won't be operated with other gloves. Oh, and it says water droplets or sand may cause it to malfunction or operations may not be possible. Now, I'm not telling you that. Kubota's telling you that. And by the way, you want to see how many pages they have about how to use the touchscreen? Check it out. There's a lot. So all of this is stuff about how to use the touchscreen, how to set it up. So as you can see, it's tons of fun and it's kind of complicated. I represent a lot of good people at Everglades Equipment. We're a family-owned John Deere dealership, and we got your back after you buy the machine. We're gonna pick up the phone whenever you call, and we're gonna make sure you're treated right. And I tell you what, you still can't get that on the Kubota. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comment box. We'll see you on the next one. I'd like to dedicate this video to my Paypaw. He went up to the house last month after 94 years. He was one of the best to ever do it, and we'll miss him. On the John Deere, your front end, your quick attach is protected. You have this steel plate that covers up the mechanism, so it's protected. On the Kubota, you still can't get that on the Kubota. As you can see, it's completely exposed, that hydraulic cylinder down there. If it's damaged, it will start leaking hydraulic oil, and your machine will bleed itself dry of hydraulic oil until you get it fixed. Creep mode, you still can't get that on the Kubota. What's creep mode? Creep mode allows you to have the engine RPMs all the way up, set to a slow ground speed, and your joystick all the way forward. In other words, it's like a slow motion cruise control that gives you maximum engine response, engine power, and maximum hydraulic flow, but a slow and steady ground speed. It's great for mowing, clearing, sweeping, anything where you need high RPMs and low ground speed.